Two Australians, same job, same pay. $90,000 a year each. One lives in a regional town. The other lives in Sydney. Same number lands in the account every fortnight. One owns a modest home, takes the caravan up the coast twice a year and quietly tucks money away. The other rents a unit and still feels behind every single month. Same salary, completely different life. And that gap right there is the thing almost nobody mentions when they tell you what a job actually pays in this country. Today, we are walking every pay level in Australia, from the minimum wage right up to the top 1%. Real take-home pay, real rent, and the real life each one buys in 2026. Because here is what those two Australians already know. The number on your payslip tells you far less than you think. Where you live and what you sign up for quietly decide the rest. Start at the bottom. The national minimum wage rose on the 1st of July 2026. Fair Work Commission set it at $26.44 an hour. That is $1,004.90 a week before tax, a bit over $52,000 a year, full-time. The first time the minimum wage has passed $1,000 a week. After tax, you take home around $45,000. Sounds all right until the rent lands. In a capital city, the middle rent is now about $740 a week. That is more than half your take-home pay gone before you have bought a single thing. Groceries, petrol, power, phone. At this level, there is nothing left to build with. You are not failing. The maths is, step up to $60,000. On the latest ABS figures for 2025, the typical full-time Australian earns closer to $90,000. So $60,000 is a real wage, but it sits under the middle. After tax, $60,000 leaves you with roughly $50,000 a year. Maybe an extra $100 a week over the minimum wage. Enough to breathe, not quite enough to relax. Now $80,000 a year. After tax, that is around $64,000 in your pocket. And this is exactly where our two Australians start to pull apart. Rent does most of the damage. In a regional town, it might run $600 a week. In Sydney, closer to $820. Same salary, two very different starting points. But it is not just the rent. Picture a simple Friday night out, a chicken schnitty and a couple of schooners down at the local pub. Nothing fancy, just a normal night. In the country town, that night might set you back around $40. In the middle of Sydney, the same schnitty and the same two beers can sail past $65. Now stretch that across everything. The morning coffee, the weekend haircut, parking in the city, a round of golf. Nearly every one of them costs more once you live in the big smoke. None of it looks like much on its own, but a full year of those small gaps becomes a holiday or a real dent in the mortgage. The little numbers are where the difference quietly hides. And here is the honest bit. Not everything is cheaper out of the city. Petrol and some groceries can cost more once freight gets added. But housing is the giant, and housing wins the war. That is the quiet trap waiting at every level too. Lifestyle creep, the new ute on finance, the apartment upgrade, dinner out 4 nights a week. The pay rise lands and the spending climbs to meet it. $100,000 a year. For decades, this was the number that meant you had made it in Australia. 6 figures. The magic mark. It does not feel magic anymore. After tax, $100,000 is really about $77,000 in the hand. Solid money. But a 6-figure salary used to buy a house deposit in just a few years. Now the national middle home value sits near $940,000 on the latest Cotality figures for 2026. In the big city, that 6 figures feels like treading water in nicer shoes. Push on to $130,000. Now you have stepped into roughly the top 10% of Australian taxpayers. That sounds like a lot. On paper it is. After tax, you keep around $98,000 a year. You can rent well, save properly, invest a little, and still enjoy your weekends. This is where real wealth becomes genuinely possible. But watch what happens next. You start mixing with people on $200,000, $300,000. Suddenly your $130,000 feels small. You are out earning most of the country and still feeling behind. $180,000. The top 5% now. After tax, about $129,000 a year lands in your account. This is serious money by any honest measure. So why do so many people on this exact income still feel stretched thin? Here is the part almost nobody warns you about. The commitments grow faster than the pay ever does. A big mortgage in a good suburb, 2 cars on finance in the driveway, private school fees for 2 kids. Add it all up and $180,000 suddenly feels tight. The income was never the problem. The lifestyle you build around it is. Every step up the ladder comes with a matching set of bills you did not have on the step below. And this is the honest truth behind a lot of big incomes. The financed ute, the renovation, the second property, plenty of it is not wealth at all. It is borrowing, dressed up to look like a rival. $250,000. A different world now. After tax, roughly $167,000 a year. But almost half of every extra dollar goes to the ATO. Above $190,000, the top tax rate kicks in. 45 cents in the dollar plus the Medicare levy. And if the spending stays sensible, freedom becomes a date on a calendar, not a dream. And then the top 1%. Somewhere north of $350,000 a year, depending on whose figures you read. A very thin slice of the country sits up here. After tax, somewhere around $220,000 a year. The strange part is money almost stops being the daily question. Time quietly becomes the real currency instead. The trap up here is quietly assuming it lasts forever. Careers turn, industries shift. The people who stay wealthy turn today's big income into assets that keep paying long after the job stops. So here is what the whole ladder is really telling you. Your pay level matters, but it is nowhere near the whole story. What you keep matters more than what you make. Think back to our 2 Australians on the same $90,000. Same job, same pay slip. One is quietly building a life. The other is quietly falling behind. Only the postcode and the choice is changed. Someone on $80,000 who saves a solid slice of it will pass someone on $200,000 who spends every cent. Every time. Time and habit do the heavy lifting, not the salary. The real gap is not between you and the person earning more. It is between what you bring in and what you let slip away. That gap, right there, is where freedom actually lives. Quick one before we wrap up. Everything here is general information only. It is not financial, legal, or tax advice. For your own situation, it is always worth getting proper advice that actually fits you. If this cleared a few things up, do me a favor. Give it a like. It helps this kind of content reach more Australians who need it. Subscribe and turn on notifications so the next one finds you. See you in the next one.